This is Business Talk, your business, your success. Sponsored by Take Action Business Coaching. The opinions expressed are those of the participants and may not be the views of the staff, advertisers, and owners of the station. Advice given is not intended to replace that of your business advisor. Now, let's get down to talking about your business, your success. This is Business Talk.
Well, good afternoon.
Well, good
Ohio
afternoon.
and Columbus.
Oh, Pete and I are so happy to get to talk to you today.
We are. We're always happy to talk to you guys.
We always are. It's Peg and Pete with Business Talk today.
Right.
Now, sometimes it's Pete and Michelle, and sometimes it's Pete and Angie.
Angie Haynes and Michelle Calcasola are our other coaches in our firm. And we're here in Columbus, Ohio, and we've been here for about a dozen years.
Yes.
And Action Coach is a franchise organization that's based in Australia. And actually, it's based in the U.S. now, but it started in Australia almost 20 years ago.
You know what? I think it's almost 25.
No way.
Because next year, I think it's 25.
Really?
Because they're talking about doing a big anniversary for 25 years. And so Pete and I have only been with them half their lifetime.
Only half of their lifetime. The best half, I will say.
Yes, I would say too.
Oh, yeah.
And so
we learn from other coaches around the world. And we're going to where's the next conference?
In Canada.
Oh, Canada. We're going to Vancouver. Is that right?
That sounds right.
Okay. I've never been there.
Yes. We're going to be going to
Looking
Vancouver
forward to
learning
that.
more. So today, what we get to talk about, so as we were looking, Pete and I were talking about our topic. Pete's going to be covering good news, which we always do, right?
Yeah, we do that.
And so we really wanted to talk about succession planning today.
Yes.
Succession planning on all different levels, because I got to tell you, and maybe it's what we're focused on, because whatever you focus on, you get more of. But we have so many clients going through this process. So we wanted to talk about that today.
Well, and those of you that own a business and have owned a business for a few years, there are a lot of you, millions of you out there. There are probably 30,000 businesses in the central Ohio area, right around Columbus. But there's over 25 million in the U.S., small business.
Right.
And a lot of those folks are in their 50s and older and don't have a clear path of where they're going to go.
Right. And so we're going to talk a little bit about that.
We'll talk about that.
We're going to talk about how do you get that done. And I know there's people listening saying, I know I need to be doing this, because there's all of us saying that. So go ahead and let's start with some good news.
Good news. Let's see. Boy, this is interesting. Good news from this is from the Wall Street Journal. Oh, actually, this one's from Barron's magazine, and it's about Iceland. Now, Iceland is using its using its volcanoes and things to generate electricity. So hydropower and geothermal power, to the extent they're starting to make aluminum with it.
Oh.
So they're making the metal from aluminum ore, bauxite, and using electricity to make this product, and the electricity is basically free. How cool is that? Isn't that cool?
I like
pretty
that.
Cool.
Oh, I like that. How
I thought
creative.
that was neat.
Oh, that is good. I like how you come up with this good news that, it's not just about business. It's not just about world peace. It's about just some random things that are somebody in
cool.
Iceland.
Right.
I love it. Now I'm that much wiser of what they're
You're
doing
that
in
much
Iceland.
wiser.
I like
and
that.
And take a guess, Peg, whose stock market has done the best in the world this year? Take a wild guess.
Well,
You're never going to guess
it
this.
couldn't be us.
If you do,
Could
I'm
it?
done. I'm signing off. That's it.
I have no idea then.
It's Poland.
I would have never guessed.
Yes. Poland, our producers gave me the funny eye, the eyebrow raise. 21% this year.
What about the others? What about others?
Well, the biggest loser, I'll give you the loser as well. Sorry, Greece, you're down 6.8%.
Now that I probably could have guessed.
They've had some problems with
had some
balancing
challenges.
their budget, and you got to pay your bills and all that stuff. So anyway, Poland is Europe is improving. The economy in Europe, which is good for us because maybe 15% of our exports go to Europe, and it's good for us as a whole in the long run. But their economy is improving.
That is
possibly
good.
Up to 3%.
And of course,
this year.
we talk about this. What's our percent lately?
In the stock market, it's gone up about 5% since the beginning of the year, but about 10% since November. So that's good.
Yes, that election, it's been scary.
Yeah.
I mean, I say that sarcastically. People were saying, I'm going to wait. No.
Yeah, whatever. Just keep going.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah, let's keep moving
going.
on.
So we're here
positive.
talking about your business, your success. It's Business Talk, and it's Peg and Pete today, and we're talking about succession planning. So how would you know if you needed to think about succession planning? What would you look in the mirror and ask yourself, Peg?
I like that. Okay, good question. So the number one question is, Or maybe I would say a statement versus a question. I don't have to worry about that. I'm not retiring for at least 10 to 15 years.
Oh, that's a great
Isn't that
intro.
One?
Yes.
Yes. That's the number one thing. Well, no, I don't really have to worry about that because, I'm only in my 40s and that's so far off.
Mm-hmm.
Or I'm in my 50s and that's so far off. Or I'm in my 30s and that's so far off.
The thing that we've run into a few times is people that waited till it's a year from now or less even.
5 years even. Well,
And
5
then,
years you're a little bit better.
knock on wood, somebody gets sick. Could be you. Could be a key employee. You lose a big account. Something happens. And then you're in trouble.
And so often with us as business owners, what we have done is we've put our retirement plan in our business. So more than likely,
it's a huge portion
of our net worth. Exactly. Yes. And so, and what did we say the other day? With your biggest asset.
Oh, your biggest asset, and I said I was speaking about myself, is sometimes my biggest asset can become my biggest liability.
Right.
So your enthusiasm can overwhelm your.
Well, when we were talking to a gentleman, Kevin, who we are partnering with Succession, he said, the question I want to ask is do you have a plan for your biggest asset? Mm-hmm. I mean, do you really have a plan? And most of us don't. And we talk because you think you have time. So we're going to talk a little bit about that. Right.
So suggestion number one would be start early. And by early, we do mean 10 years.
Oh,
if you have a sizable business, you really need to start 10 years before you think you might want to walk away.
And let me give you an example of why.
Sure.
Okay. So we sit down with an owner, a business owner, a small business owner, and one of the questions we want to ask you is, what's your end game? Why? What are we going to do with this? And most often you hear, well, I'm not really sure. Mm-hmm. So we'll say, okay, well, let's look at our choices. Yeah. Do you want to sell it in the end?
Right.
Sell it to a big company that could be merged, like do an MA kind of merger acquisition kind of thing.
Could be to a competitor.
It could be to a competitor.
Different kind of thing.
There you go.
Could be to your employees.
Could be to your employees. Right. It could be handed down to family members, have other family members come up.
Yeah.
And what happens a lot is if you're a family-run business, the thing you're waiting on is maybe for a family member to step up because you don't want to sell it because of that family member. We have that a lot.
So maybe I have kids that are in high school or maybe they're just starting college and they don't know what they want to do yet.
Right.
They don't know.
And you don't want to sell it yet because part of maybe the goal is to take care of your kids and you trust them. Mm-hmm. So you want this to go on, or maybe you want to sell it and just get the profits, to them, or have them run it and just, that's another one is you have a general manager come in, you don't sell it, and your plan is that you will maintain the ownership.
The kids don't run it, but they profit from the company. Even if you're not around.
Or you do, vice versa.
You do, vice versa, right.
So one of the conversations we had with this small business owner is we said, okay, when is it you think you're going to retire? And they said maybe 10, maybe 15 years.
Okay. So they had some time.
They had some time. It was a great time to have a conversation like that. So we're not pressured. There's no stress. And there's no, I got to do this now. And we started talking about the different options. Well, when you start talking about the different options, what that means to you is your end game may be different than what you think. So, for example, this person had a fairly small company. Now, this was a few years ago, and we said, well, have you ever thought of doing an ESOP? And explain what an ESOP is, Pete.
Well, it's just an acronym for Employee Stock Ownership Plan. So a group of employees, the employees would own the company, basically.
So as we were talking about that as one of the options, he says, well, that actually sounds really attractive to me because he loves his employees. Employees are absolutely brilliant. It's a really good idea for that to happen. Mm-hmm. But ESOPs can happen when you're a certain size. So ideally, you need to be a certain size. And what is that? A million EBITDA?
In earnings before interest, taxes, depreciation, and
was it a million or 1.5 million?
In that ballpark.
In that ballpark.
Yeah.
So knowing that allowed him to have a better conversation. So asking those great questions allowed him to say, okay, well, maybe I do want to have an ESOP. And if that means that I need to increase the value of my business, which is what that means, then I better start doing that now so that I have that as a choice.
Some of these choices may require you to grow at a somewhat faster rate, either organically or by acquisition, to get there, to be able to fund the buyout.
So
Right.
the first question for succession planning is, what's my end destination? You may not know that.
Time frame wise.
Exactly. And you may not know what you want to do in the end.
Right.
But the question itself should be asked.
And a lot of the planning can be done without knowing the clarity, the real clear picture on exactly what happens at the end. But there are a lot of things that need to be crossed off the list as you get closer.
So when we get back from break, what we'll do is go through some of the things you need to be asking yourself.
Sure.
And some of the steps you should be taking to get closer to that answer.
So again, this is Peg and Pete with Business Talk, and we do have a 90-day planning session on June 16th in Grandview, and we'll give you the number to reach out and get some tickets for that.
Could your business use some help? Call 614-306-7922 to schedule your coaching session. 614-306-7922. Now, here's more Business Talk.
If you'd like to hear some of our past shows, they're sorted by topic and I think dates on actioncoach.com/Take Action Business Coaching. Again, it's actioncoach.com/Take Action Business Coaching. We'd love to have you listen to some of those shows and hopefully execute on some of the ideas that you hear in there.
Right. Because you know what we're about? We're about you learning and you applying this. And so it's only as good as what you act on. So
Learning it's good, but applying it's even better.
Yeah. So the difference between where you are now and where you're going to be, it's not what you learn, it's what you learn and take action on. It takes both.
Good.
It takes both. And I did look, Pete, you are right. They are according to dates.
Okay.
Starting, we have them started with January 14th.
Awesome.
All the way up and through now. So that we just started it this year. We took our other shows. So our new shows are just
They're
on
at the
them.
Smithsonian.
Yes.
If you want to, next
That's
to the
good.
wax
That's
figures
exactly
of
where
us.
they are.
Yeah.
I love it. So we're talking. So Pete and I talking when we talked about what topic to have. We said this is probably one of our, I would say, most asked topic now.
It's happening a lot.
It's happening a
and
lot.
Of course, the baby boomers. We're all. Well,
That's true.
I don't know. Are you a baby boomer?
I'm a cusper.
Oh, you're not even a boomer.
I'm an X.
Wow.
I'm an X, but with a lot of influence in the baby boomer.
You have an X? I didn't know that.
So, which is another training
For another
we could
show.
do. We do training sessions. Generation Gap is one of the training sessions we do come in and do, which is
Pretty interesting stuff.
It's unbelievably inspiring, understanding, and helps the team really come together. So if you're interested in us doing team days, we do a lot of those all over. So, but we'll get back to the topic at hand.
Yeah, so succession planning. We're talking about your end game. So if you're by yourself, you're the business owner, this would be a good homework assignment if you're home, hopefully not while you're driving, but just think about 10 years from now, what do I really want to be doing? Am I going to work at all? Some people choose to scale back their work to the point where they're working 1 or 2 days a week because they love what they do. That could be an option.
Let's go through options of what we see out there, Pete. That's a good idea. So right before the break, we talked about an ESOP. And so when we walk into companies, we actually, as one of the first things, depending on every coaching engagement is customized, but one of the things we do is we have a succession plan expert that comes in and asks a bunch of questions so that we understand where the gaps are. Mm-hmm. So before the break, we talked a little bit about ESOPs being one option, correct?
Right. Yeah.
So another one that we see happen is we see that your business is handed over to your family members. And let's talk a little bit about that, of what we've seen good and bad happen in that.
Well, and that's something that, again, requires some planning. And we mentioned in the earlier session that there are times when we have a business owner who has younger family members, and they want to keep the option open for them to be involved in the business when they're a bit older, because they may have the capability to do it. But, if they're starting college by the end of those college years or a couple years after, they may not want to get into the business at that point.
And they may not be ready. And so here's one. I'm just going to go through some case studies just so you guys as listeners see what else other people are doing. So one case study is we have a fairly large business. Well, it was a smaller business when we entered into it. Since then, since we've been coaching, they've increased dramatically. So what that means is that the younger family members, the children, are not capable of running that large of a company yet, and they won't for 10 years. They have way too much to learn, way too much. So what we did in this case is we mapped out everything that, well, first we had to figure out which family members are
Who wants to be involved. Sure. Some do, some don't.
And so we knew that we needed the general manager, or we needed to put a general manager in place because the business owner, if you remember what the company I'm talking about, the business owner didn't really want to operate anymore. So we have a general manager there. Now, when we brought in the general manager to continue the increase of speed of this growth, his job was to train the son. And his job is to say, okay, part of what I'm doing is training my replacement. And that works out well because whether you call it a general manager or a president,
right,
he only wants to be there 5 to 10 years.
Perfect.
So the goal
it meets that person's goals,
right,
but it also meets the goals of the original owner.
And so understanding and spelling that out is going to be your first step of, okay, do I need to bring in somebody else to bridge the gap?
Interim.
Yes, to bridge the gap of where I'm going to be and because a lot of times when we're talking to people, they're like, I'm sort of done.
Yeah,
like,
if I'm 60 and I want to retire in 5 years, but my kids can't take over for 15, I need something else.
That's exactly. So that's one option. And that has worked out really, really well. Let me tell you, the success of that succession planning is because of communication, planning. It's creating a list and training. It's based on the president being able to train and be a mentor. In this case, time wasn't really permitting it. So what we did is they brought us in as coaches, helping that mentorship as well, to as leverage to get the person up and running. So that is one option you have. So we talked a little bit about ESOPs, but we didn't go too far into it. The other one would be this. So what would be another?
The other thing that I think this may be a good time to talk about it. Again, this is Peg and Pete with Business Talk. And we're business coaches, and we do a lot of work with folks who need to develop a succession plan, is that the management team itself, whether you sell it to a big company, a small company, a competitor, or you have your heirs run it, the management team needs to be as strong as humanly possible. So if you're going to sell it, it'll be worth more if the management team's strong. And coming back to the owner, if you look at the tasks that owner's doing currently, they may not want to be doing all those tasks in the next 3 or 4 years, even though they may not leave till 6 or 7 or 8 years down the road.
Right.
But why not develop some bench strength now? And that's one of the things that we do with folks, is to help them identify those areas where, hey, if I got hit by a beer truck tomorrow, this would not get done properly. And there really isn't anybody who knows how to do it now. Let's identify those things and start working with people to get them up to speed on some of those critical tasks before you want to leave.
I liked what you just said, is looking through what am I going to, part of succession planning, to your point, Pete, is looking at your management team and getting everybody ready to move up and get ready. That's part of the plan. It's not just about turning the company over, but it's who's going to succeed who in what role. And one thing that has happened to us in the past, which I smile because it's not the intent, but it happens, is when we do look at the owner and he says, I want to stop doing these things. Or I say owner, president. And so we start taking those things off their plate and they have other people doing it. Well, guess what happens? They start loving the business even more. And they could have done this a long time ago.
That's always true.
This just happened to you in Texas with our client in Texas.
Right.
Pete brought in a warehouse manager, and you ended up bringing in bookkeeper.
Some other people.
All of a sudden, he's doing 100% of what he loves.
Growing even faster, and he's doing what he loves, which is really sales.
And he
loves sales.
And he grew 25%, then 30%. Oh my gosh! Yeah. All because we're working on his succession plan.
Right. And he's starting to rethink, do I really want to leave in 3 years? Maybe it'll be 6. And his wife's like, well, wait a minute. You said 3. You know?
And it's what happens because we make you love it again.
This is a good problem. Right?
It's a good problem. We make you love it again because all of a sudden you didn't realize, I can love my business again and do everything I love and not worry about the others. And maybe I don't want to. That happened with another company, a veterinarian. He was going to leave in 3 years. Then he started making real money. And he's like, well, wait a minute, I'm not going to.
I don't want to go.
He kept it for another 6.
Right.
And so he doubled. It was just because the joy had to come back.
So something you could do if you're listening out there, if you're the owner, or it could be yourself and maybe one or two of your key managers, is each of you should write down the key areas of responsibility that you handle now that would be difficult to handle if you were gone for more than a month. Mm-hmm. You want to go to Tahiti for a month. Where's the problem going to be? Well, maybe one or two areas, write them down. And then we need to have a plan developed for that. And if you're going to sell it to someone, the company, you've got to be able to demonstrate that it'll run great without you being there.
I liked what you said because we've actually done that, obviously, with some people. And Pete and I were in a company. And one thing, and I don't know if you've ever experienced this, is the owner, who's the father, was finding it difficult to exit, not only because he possessed so much skill, because, with that is skills, relationships, and knowledge, et cetera, but also trusting that the other family members would step up. So what we did as we were coaching him, I'll call him Sam, as we were coaching Sam, is we said, Sam, why don't you exit this business for a month? Mm-hmm. Leave. And test it. Now, we had worked on this. It wasn't blindly leaving and saying, see how
Tomorrow.
You do. But we had put some systems in place and some expectations, and we did that exercise that Pete just said, and there were some gaps, one of which was the financials. And we knew, it wasn't basic financials, but it was a little bit more.
Some of the analysis.
More of the analysis, and we knew in a month we would be okay.
Mm-hmm.
So he left for a month, and he did do that, and he came back, and everything was fine. But as soon as he came back, everybody went right back to him. They had almost held up a lot of their issues.
Saved their issues.
They saved their issues to overwhelm this poor gentleman, Sam. So then what we did is we said, okay, which was a good test because it showed what issues we had saved up.
Now it's 2 months.
And so now what we did is we had him, now he wasn't leaving for a year. We had him get out of his office. And when I say get out, I mean he moved out and put the successor in there.
Okay.
And he moved to a small corner of a building where it wasn't very visual.
So this is a visual cue for everybody else in the company that, hey,
exactly,
this gentleman actually is in charge.
Right. And then what we did is, to your point of the task, we also did the meetings. So we had the other gentleman run the meetings with this other person not even in. Because it wasn't just about this person getting the knowledge, the new president. It was also about the other team seeing that transition happen.
Yeah.
And it not happening just immediately, but over time. And that's what I think people forget. When we went into one company and we said, when are you going to be transitioning? They said a couple years, and I'm going to announce my successor when I leave. And we were like, no, and announce that now.
Right.
In this case, it wasn't a family member, but give a year.
Right. Good for the person that's going to be in that job. Good for all the other employees. And they'll work with that person to support them while they grow into the job.
And it gives it time, and we're not so panicked, and we have times to see this evolve.
Mm-hmm.
And a lot of times when you're thinking succession, you're forgetting all of the pieces and parts that can go together, and that's part of your plan. So when we sit down, we have a plan.
Great. Now, again, this is Peg and Pete with Business Talk, and we do have a 90-day planning session on June 16th in Grandview at one of our clients' offices. It's from 8 to 3:30, and the whole purpose of that is to have you develop a 90-day plan for yourself for the third quarter. And if you'd like to come to that, give us a call at 614-306-7922. Again, it's 614-306-7922, and that's June 16th from 8 to 3:30.
Could your business use some help? Call 614-306-7922 to schedule your coaching session. 614-306-7922. Now, here's more Business Talk.
Well, good afternoon, Pete.
Yes, here we go again.
Yes, we're having a good time today.
Yeah, I'm teasing the producer because we have a big Browns flag in the studio.
We do, absolutely.
No Bengals flag. Now, when I come in next time, when we come in to record a show, we'll have a big piece of wrapping paper that's opaque.
It's because we're
now that's
Browns,
a big word.
We are in the Browns.
We're the Browns affiliate here in Columbus.
We are. So this is where they
wait a minute. Peg too?
Well, 98.
Oh,
that's true. Okay. Oh, sorry about that, folks out there.
We are official Columbus home for the Cleveland Browns.
Yeah.
Yeah, so that would be that we love the Browns.
We do. Oh, yes, we do.
So, all right. So we're talking about succession planning, and as business coaches, it's one of the biggest questions when we start an engagement. We ask, where are we? What is our end game? What's our destination, and how are we going to get there?
Right. So we've asked you to think about that. If you haven't, and a lot of you haven't, or you've thought about it kind of in vague terms. Well, I'm going to leave in 2-3 years. Well, is it 2 years? Is it 3 years? Or is it really 6? And have you talked to your spouse about it? We do get into that as well. Well, no, I really haven't. Okay, well, you might want to do that. Does she really want you around the house every day? Yeah.
That's a good thing, is asking your spouse.
Yeah, and dinner's a good place to have that kind of conversation, right? A little wine, nice meal. Mm-hmm. You're calm and relaxed, and then you really talk about it. And this could happen over a period of months. That's why we say it should be 10 years.
Right.
Realistically, and it doesn't mean you have to leave after 10 years. It just means start planning now. And when you get to 10 years and you decide, well, you know what, I'd like to work 2 days a week, great. If you set it up that way, you could still choose to do that.
Because there's also, and we're not financial advisors, but we do have a partner that we bring in. One of the financials of the business is that depending on when you want to leave, you might want to do some financial triggers that allow you to have the choice of who to bring in and what to do with it.
Well, and there are a lot of very complicated tax implications depending on which route you go. And so those things have to be studied. And the alternatives can be laid out in front of you. So you'll still pick, but at least you have the best advice to make sure that you pay the least tax possible when you do have a transfer and ownership.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And that, I'm thinking of, I know you, is that one client, Pete, that we coached in Dayton, that we ended up really planning way out in advance, and it really served her well. It was a 10-year plan,
right,
for her employees.
Yeah, and it's in progress, and it's happening. And
she had 4 of her employees buy the company.
She's still there, working.
And had she not done it 10 years out, here's the thing, is as your business grows, especially if you bring in a coach, you're going to grow even faster and farther. Right. And then all of a sudden, that increases the value of your business, and it makes it difficult for employees to buy it. It makes it difficult for your children to buy it, unless you create a plan that allows
to go to the bank, get a loan for $10 million.
Right. They're not. So that's why part of the planning is that you have this opportunity to create different accounts in order to make it affordable.
If you start early enough, you can fund a buyout.
That's where I'm going with it. Yeah. You said it so easily. Fund the buyout. Exactly. That's what I'm trying to say.
Cool.
So
the other thing that we talked about is thinking about the management team, and another thing that happens is you've got risk in your business, and there's market risk and risk with your clients and those kind of things, but it's also about the management team. Your own health and well-being is important because you've got key tasks that you're doing yourself. Well, are there 1 or 2 other managers in the company that if they were gone tomorrow, and God forbid they're not, but if they were, what would happen? So that's something we've got to think about.
And that is I like how you said that. That is really important. That's a good question.
And one way is they, hopefully again they get sick, and they're not there, or some competitor hires them away. So those kind of risks need to be addressed too. So how do we keep a great employee? And there are some ways to do that as well. How do we keep a key manager from leaving? What are
some ways? The golden handcuffs. You've heard of that as a phrase, right?
Yeah, is helping them with deferred compensation. So buying, for an example, would be an insurance policy where you're funding an insurance policy for them as a benefit, and the value of that grows over a period of years.
Which allows you...
So that they know it's another form of investment, so that this employee, at the end of a certain period of time that you work on together, there'd be a pile of money there for them.
It's a way for you to pay them.
Right.
And a way for you to keep them. Mm-hmm. And to offset any taxes sometimes. I mean, that'll help you with your profits.
If you have a couple of key managers and you're about to sell to some competitor, and you think, well, 2 years from now I'm going to sell, I'm going to split, and then one of your managers quits, you could be right back in doing their job.
Right.
If you didn't plan for it ahead of time.
Exactly.
So we want to keep those key folks around while you execute.
It increases the value of your business. Right. That's a good one. Yes, making sure that.
Yep.
Absolutely. And really looking at, as you look at key employees, is the succession plan. Everybody should have, Pete and I were coaching a company, a larger company, a Fortune 500 company. And one of the things they wanted is some people wanted to get promoted. Mm-hmm. Right. And always they wanted to be promoted. And one of the things as we were talking to the leadership team is we said, when somebody says, I want to move on, what we want you to add, in a good way, move on, meaning I want to move up.
Within the company.
I'm doing really well. They're a high achiever. It was, okay, so what's your succession plan? Now, this isn't from a business owner point of view. This is from to a larger company.
Who will you replace? Who will replace you?
Exactly. Who's your replacement? And that is a fair question. Who have you trained so that there's not a hole? Who have you downloaded and prepared?
Right.
And having that as an expectation and keeping that clear ahead of time, even when you bring them into a position, part of your job is to hire your replacement or to train your replacement, maybe not hire, depends on your structure. And so looking at your structure, have you done that in your business?
Right.
Have you created the expectations? Have you created the process? And are they able to train? And so what was really neat about this story, and I can tell you the end, is they had never done this. They didn't know how to. So we sat down and wrote a 90-day plan, just like we do at our growth club, because Pete and I have a 90-day plan we do. We sat down and did that, and then they showed it to the people that were up and coming, and they were saying, okay, you are my replacement. That gal, I'll call her Sally, she did get promoted. And she wanted to be a VP. She did get promoted and then did it for her next position. Because then she was a manager. Then I forget, it's a director. Or I don't
Moved up a notch.
Yeah, moved up another notch. And then just recently, she did it again. And it was all preparing. It shows leadership. It shows ability to think out for the company. And
you're thinking about the company as a whole.
Right.
Whether it's big or small, and making sure that the things that you've developed over the years that you're good at will be carried on and maybe even made better.
And you know what? It's all about you're thinking bigger. You're thinking bigger than just yourself. Right. And so it worked out really well. So that's a different type of succession plan where we're not necessarily talking about the company as a whole. But
well, the other part of it on the management process side is that, and we've done this in other shows talking about time management, is that in order to deliver your product and service effectively, it's great to have procedures and systems and processes in place. And if you've got this 8 to 10 year period, you have plenty of time to make sure that by the time you get ready to go, or let's say you're going to sell it to somebody, you can demonstrate that, hey, I can go on vacation for a month anytime I want, and the place runs fine. And 2, here's the book right here. There's all the systems for the entire company, and they're documented. And our employees can run these systems. Now, always things change. You have to tweak them, and that's easy to do, but everything we do is systemized.
That is a great point. You know what was interesting is Pete and I coach a company not in this state, and they just merged. They had a merger, so a very large global company purchased them. Now, this company, when we started coaching them, was maybe $10 million in sales, and it has grown tremendously since then, making it very appealing to purchase them.
Attractive.
And it was interesting because the big company came in. And we had done quite a bit as far as, think of Pete, of all the system analysis you did, making sure they had processes for that, the value. And they brought in an audit team. Now this company owns the other company, and it's all been friendly. It's been wonderful. And so they just finished an audit last week. And I said, how did the audit go? And so this was their internal people looking at their processes. And they said it went fairly well. It wasn't too embarrassing, so to speak.
Yeah.
But the difference in the system book versus our system book, like you were just talking about, they said we're adding probably 45 to 60 pages on what they had already put together of the gap of what needed to be provided.
The new company wants.
Yes. Okay. Just the difference. But it just shows the value of that company with the systems and the people really increases. And even then, they'll probably end up adding more, depending on the size of company that's purchasing you, which was interesting.
Great. So again, this is Peg and Pete with Business Talk, and we have our 90-day planning session. If you would like to attend, give us a call, 614-306-7922. It's on June 16th in Grandview from 8 to 3:30, and you'll develop a plan for the third quarter for your business with the help of our coaches and also the other business owners in the room. And again, 614-306-7922. When we get back, we'll talk more about succession planning.
Could your business use some help? Call 614-306-7922 to schedule your coaching session. 614-306-7922. Now, here's more business talk.
All right, we're talking about succession planning here, and this is Peg and Pete.
Well, hello, good afternoon. Wow,
Good
what a
afternoon
fun
again.
topic. What a fun topic. Now, if you have missed part of the show and you're saying, you know what, Peg and Pete, you are so fabulous, and I missed some of this wonderful information.
Fabulous, that's the word.
Oh, that's exactly
yeah.
what you're going to be saying. What we want you to do is go to our website where we have archived our radio shows so that you can hear maybe what you missed.
actioncoach.com/Take Action Business Coaching, and that's our firm website. And we've got radio shows on there with sorted by topic and date.
And it's actioncoach.com/Take
Action Business Coaching.
Action Business Coaching. And you know what? I am going to shorten that. That'll be my promise to you.
We're going to make it TABC.
Yeah, I'll figure out a way to make that shorter because a lot of you are driving and you're saying, I
yeah,
wanna,
be careful out there.
Yes, just remember it. Take Action Business Coaching is the /. So we've learned a lot today on the show. One of the reasons we picked this topic is because when we're dealing with our clients one-on-one, one of the gaps that we see is that we really don't know our end game. And what we mean by that is, what are we going to do when it's done?
Right.
And
we've got businesses in a variety of these stages.
Exactly.
One that's already in progress and probably has 8 or so years to go in the process. At that point, it'll be purchased by a group of employees within the business, not all employees.
Right.
There are also some that are doing a
And they
full,
planned that out 10 years. Wait, Pete, was that a 10-year plan?
It's a 10-year plan,
Got
but
it.
it's a year and a half or so into the 10-year plan.
Got it.
So it's in progress. It's happening. There are some that are evaluating ESOPs where all the employees would buy the company as a group, so there's that. And then we've got a couple that are a little different. One, and we mentioned this earlier, is that we've got one where there's a possibility of the couple that the younger family members that are still getting into college and finishing college may go into the business, but that's only a possibility. So we want to have that as an option for the business owner and not close the door on that.
And one of the things we did in that case is we realized there might be a 10-year gap. So let's just say that the business owner wants to retire in 10 years.
Right.
The kids are in college, right? Or they're about to go into college.
And they don't know whether they want to be in the business.
Right. Now, here's the thing you got to consider. Even if you're out of college, you get a job after a year, that's 5 years in. So I've gone to 4 years of college. Let's say I'm not doing any other, I'm just doing 4. No, only undergrad.
5-year plan, right?
So then the 5th year I end up, or even the 5th and 6th year I go get a job. The problem is, even if I bring you in, you're still not ready to run this company.
Oh, right.
So there's still this gap. So what we did in that case is we did hire a general manager. We didn't hire them. We promoted them within. Because we knew that general manager in the end was probably going to be the one that's going to be mentoring the children, if that's the case.
Yeah, and you have to look at the age ranges and the desires of those individuals too. And
Right.
this person that you're talking about is the perfect complement to the younger folks.
It's perfect.
Is that they'll
Right.
want to retire 10 or 15 years before they will, and they'll be able to bridge the gap.
And so that's the kind of planning we're talking about.
Right.
Right.
Just thinking through all those details and keeping the doors open to as many of these things as possible.
And I guess if after you listen to the show, one thing I think Pete, wouldn't you say the one thing that we've said again and again is don't wait. Don't ask these questions with 1 or 2 years out. Because I remember when we were talking to the business owner in Texas, this was almost 2 years ago, and we said, when do you want to leave? He said, I'm thinking of leaving, what was it, 3 years or 5 years?
Yeah, well, I think it was like 5 years originally. And then it became 3 years.
And we were saying 5.
And now he's thinking about staying on longer.
Well, he was thinking of putting it off. He was like, well, it's 5 years. I've got time. We're like, no, you don't have time.
You really don't.
You don't have time. And he took us seriously. And when he did that, he grew. He had no idea. Dramatically. When we brought him in, when he brought us in, he had no idea.
You know, the other thing, and I'm thinking of we have a client on the East Coast where there are 2 brothers and a father, and the father started the business. So is responsible for this great, profitable, growing business. And one of the sons has become the president. All 3 of them have equity in the company, but the father still comes to work every day because he enjoys it. Now, when it gets January-ish, he'll go to Florida for a month. He's done that the last couple of years.
Brilliant.
But he comes to work every day and works in the business. However, the two boys are running the place. He's there if they need him and this and that. And he goes out and works on the things that he loves. And he doesn't have any what I'm saying, he doesn't have his old long-term responsibilities that he used to have when he was the sole owner. So he's got it both. He's got it made. And he enjoys it, and he has a purpose, and he loves coming to work, and he loves hearing how the business is doing this and that. But he doesn't have the pressure of making payroll
daily.
And, big issues with customers, the daily things.
But he still makes money. He's taking money.
And he's 78.
A young 78. He's a very young 78.
Yeah, but he loves coming in and working. So it doesn't mean you have to walk away if you set it up in a way that it can run without you. Well, you can have both.
It was interesting. So I was talking to one client, Pete, and I don't think you were in this conversation, so I don't know that you know the story. Pete and I so often work together with our clients. In this one, we started talking about what to do, and he was thinking, to your point, he was like, well, I have to get rid of it. Like, I either have to sell it to my kids or give it to my kids, sell it to...
It's a firm, hard stop.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I said, well, have you ever thought of just not doing that and having them run it? And I go, you're making maybe $500,000.
And continue to own it.
Yes. You make $500,000 profit.
Mm-hmm.
What if you just have it run without you and you just take the profit and do something else? And it was like we opened up a door to a candy store. I was like, I never even thought of that. Because when you say succession planning, you're thinking, I have to get rid of it.
Right.
But that's not necessarily the end game.
Not necessarily, right.
That's not necessarily the end game. But you still it takes planning, because now how long? This is a company that is got 25 employees.
Okay. And
we started it 2.5 years ago. And we are almost to the point where he can not walk away, but he can have significant less time in the business. Okay. And
he can go on an extended vacation.
Yes, for a long period of time. And if something happened to him, although it would be harsh and awful, that business, it will do okay.
It would do well.
It will do well. We need another year or so, because we really have to shore up sales a little bit better. Outside of that, he is really building a business without him. And that's what you want, is the choice.
Yeah.
So that's what succession planning is all about.
Super. Now, we've got another client, and it's in Ohio here, that the gentleman is in the late 50s, early 60s, and has a son that's in the business, but has just recently, in the last couple of years, gotten out of college, and he's learning. So we're working directly with them to help him learn as fast as possible.
Right. And that's one of the things. Is he taking over? Is it already established? Is he taking over that company?
Well, the next move for him will be to be in charge of operations. So that's the next logical move. He's done a significant amount in the internal stuff, the office management, the financial side, inventory control, warehousing, those kind of things, purchasing. And now the next move is on operations. So he's basically learning the entire company from within.
That's wonderful. And it's a plan.
It has to take a few years. You can't take someone generally right out of college and say, okay, you're in charge. It just doesn't happen.
It's funny you say that, because we do have those conversations, Pete, with people that said, business owner, when you came in, the company was at zero in some cases, and you learned so much along the way. And it took you years to learn that. Now, for you to bring in somebody and say, go, and have that same knowledge isn't fair.
Right.
Give them time to learn.
They've got to have time, and you have to have a plan. And we've got a plan over the next year and a half to have this individual work in a couple different areas to make sure that they've got a really good grasp of the whole business.
Oh, that's wonderful. And that's really working out well, because he's learning a lot. And it's nice that Pete is the main coach on this, and you're really coaching him on leadership, on time management, on what are some other areas you're coaching him on?
And those are two big ones. The other good part of it is that the employees see this transition happening. They see him learning and working with employees in every department. And when the time does come, and it's a few years off still, it'll be relatively easy.
Well, I liked what you said, and let's just revisit that for a minute. It's what the team around him sees. Right. It's a transition. And keep in mind, it's what the customers see.
Those two.
Because it's a transition of customers, it's a transition of team, it's a transition of you and you getting used to the idea, and them. So doing this far out and creating the plan is really what's going to make your company a legacy. And a lot of times that's why we do it. We do it for us, but then when we have family, or it's about others or customers, and we can make sure we serve our customers well, because that's what it's about. That's what succession plan's all about.
Right. No, you made a good point there. There are companies that need to see the transition if the business owner will be gone, and sometimes that happens in the last year or so, that you need to take a look at your customer list, and there might be certain customers that you want to go visit personally and introduce your successor.
I'm glad you brought that up because we do that. Now, this is a company that's a little larger. It's a fairly large company, and we're doing that with people who are retiring.
Okay.
To not lose.
Make sure accounts don't get nervous.
Exactly. So what we've done is create a people plan, create a transition plan, and then making sure that when we don't lose any clients along the way.
Right.
And we've done it in a way, I've got to tell you, we sat down 3 years ago and started this process, and it has been seamless. It has been really nice how we had a targeted goal, we had a transition per client, and we have not lost any business because of that. Now, this gentleman,
talked to them well ahead of time.
Well,
make them feel comfortable about it.
I mean, it was a couple years.
Okay.
It was a couple year plan. We brought in the new person, and that's how that I guess that business served the 2-year plan better.
Mm-hmm.
And I think it depends on the business what you have to do. But in this case, it worked out really well. So
we're just reminding you guys that there shouldn't be a disturbance when the transition happens or when you decide to go to Florida forever.
Exactly.
The business is going to continue, and the service level will stay the same or get better, and your customers can count on you just like they always did.
That's so true. That's so true. And so when you want to hear this again, or you know somebody who does, go to our websites, and it'll be under succession planning. And you want to go to actioncoach.com, and then you have to do this / and then
Take Action Business Coaching.
Take Action Business Coaching. You'll see Pete and Peg and Angie and Michelle, and you can listen to this show and other shows, and they're all titled. So it's wonderful information for you to learn to really grow your business. Or better yet, call us one-on-one for a complimentary coaching session where we can talk to you. And call Pete. Let's give that number, Pete.
614-306-7922. And again, it's 614-306-7922. And listen in next Saturday.
This has been Business Talk, your business, your success. Sponsored by Take Action Business Coaching. The opinions expressed were those of the participants and may not be the views of the staff, advertisers, and owners of the station. Advice given was not intended to replace that of your business advisor. For more information about the topics discussed today, call 614-306-7922. 614-306-7922. Tune in next week at this time for more Business Talk, your business, your success.